The goal of your recovery is not to see how long you can go without watching porn. The only goal that is within your recovery is for you to see who can you become once you remove pornography out of your life. You see, what we must understand, gentlemen, is that if the only thing that we learn through our journey and process to freedom is how to not look at pornography, then we are missing the boat. Because you and I both know that pornography is not your problem. Porn has to become the solution to the everyday problems in your life that you are unable to handle. Chances are, if you're hearing or watching this right now, you've gone an extended period of time in your life. You've been wrestling with a pornography addiction for up to a decade. I can guarantee you've had bouts of freedom for 30, 60, 90 days. I've spoken with hundreds of men that have gone years without looking at pornography. But then chaos happens in their life. The volcano goes off. Everything erupts. The foundation from under their life is pulled out from underneath them. And they instantaneously find themselves back in the same destructive patterns of behavior. Why is that the case? It's because all they did was stop watching porn. They didn't become the man that no longer needs it in their life. I was recently asked on a podcast, Frank, what happens to the male brain when he stops looking at pornography? I started to go off onto the different rewiring, the creation of new neural pathways, how this creates better, healthier habits in our life. But I quickly caught myself because I was misleading the host and I was misleading his listeners. In my opinion, not watching porn doesn't do a whole lot for us. It's the work that we do, the intentional development, the intentional creation of new habits, of new patterns. Right now, you watch pornography when you're triggered, which means something happens in your life that you can't deal with. And your habit, your pattern of behavior is to alleviate whatever is going on by watching porn. The intentional work comes in how do we replace said behavior? I think James Clear does an incredible job in the book Atomic Habits of outlining it, help us understand that the things that we do on a repetitive basis, our daily habits, are not just one thing. A habit is the byproduct of three specific actions or three specific things that happen and occur in our life. Number one is the trigger. We must understand and identify our triggers to watching pornography. The second part of the habit is the habit or the behavior in and of itself. So, triggers for us produce the habit of watching pornography. And the third part, which makes this a subconscious pattern of behavior, is the reward that we get and or give ourselves. So right now something happens in our life, we are triggered unconsciously, subconsciously, we return back to pornography. And the reward for said behavior is the release, the loss of the stress, feeling, triggered emotion, whatever it is that triggered us to go watch pornography. That is a reward in and of itself. If you don't accept that, you'll never break free. But you have to understand that's why you're using pornography, because it's giving you something. Quitting porn is not about how long you go without watching porn. Your freedom is found in who do you become? The intentional work. Dr. Trish Lee explains this as the unwire and then rewiring process. Our belief system here, our foundation is built upon that the only way to overcome a pornography addiction for good is to become the man that is no longer addicted to porn. And how do you do that is the question, right? You do that by developing better ways to handle and process those triggers. Because quitting porn isn't going to change the external circumstances within your life. Quitting porn isn't going to remove the stressful people in your life. You got to find something that you can anchor onto. You got to build belief within yourself. You have something that's guiding you and calling you to be a better human being. You have something that is fulfilling you from a deep spiritual component. If you're seeking pornography to relieve stress, then you must develop real-time tools to alleviate stress. I remember having a story shared on the Super Midlife podcast where a gentleman was talking about his journey to overcoming alcohol addiction. And he recalls a moment where a woman is sharing a story of how for her it's 40 years of fighting it every single day, white knuckling this. She has not transcended this addiction. It is still holding on to her. If every day when you wake up, your thought is, how do I not give into my temptations? How do I not give into the urges? Then you're still a slave to that addiction. Now, you may not be acting out on it, but that is what makes it an addiction, is it holds power over you. That is why when 12 steps says you must surrender, that you are powerless to this behavior, I don't agree with that. because I believe we do have the ability to develop the power within ourselves to no longer need this in our life. But it takes intentional work. We got to get clear on who we are. We got to get clear on who God called us to be. We got to be taking action every single day and becoming that person. I love the way that Ed Milet talks about his idea of heaven, that one day when he leaves this earth, he will meet God at the pearly gates. God says, "Hey, Ed, well done, good and grateful servant. That's somebody I want you to meet. This is the man that you could have become had you taken all the opportunities, had you had all the experiences, had you taken all the risks, had you built all the relationships, had you done all the work on yourself. This is who I created you to be." Heaven is looking that man in the eye and saying, "I recognize you because we're the same." Hell would be getting up there and not being able to identify who that person is, having nothing in common with the man that God has called you to be. So, in your journey to recovery, have you identified who you must become in these areas of your life to not just not give into the temptation, to not have to keep fighting the urges, but to become the man that has truly transcended and is walking in pure and absolute freedom? Freedom from pornography is not found in a length of time. This is why I'm against counting days. I've never been a fan of streaks. I think, yeah, it's good to know I'm at 30 days. Yeah, it's good to know I've been 90 days without porn. Yeah, it's good to know here in a couple of weeks, I'm coming up on 5 years of absolute freedom. But if all we do every single day is wake up with the goal to put a check mark in a box because we made it free and we didn't do any intentional work and development on ourselves, then that thing is now holding power over us. And what happens if you were to slip? Your entire life falls and crumbles underneath you. And I know this to be true because I hear from hundreds of you every single week about this exact same thing. How many times have you gone for an extended period of time? Then your ego gets up and you're like, "I got this, man. I don't need to put any work into this today." And then, just like the lady in the red dress, boom, out of nowhere, your attention is distracted. And you're immediately falling right back into the old patterns of behavior because you didn't focus on who you were becoming. You didn't put in the work to level yourself up. You didn't chase greatness on a daily basis. Who you become in this journey is the number one important thing, the only thing that, in my opinion, matters. Now, how do you get clear on who that man is? We put together a 5-part training on how to create a vision for your life without pornography. To click the link down there in the show notes or visit www.rebuiltrecovery.com/vision. You can opt in, put your email address in, and we're going to send the training over to you immediately. But if you follow these steps and get clear on every single area of your life, have you remained free for 5 years? What does your life look like? And who must you become? But stop counting the days. Stop being a streak tracker. You must transcend the behavior by becoming the man that is no longer addicted to porn. Guys, if you got value out of this episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're watching on the YouTube channel. If you're on the audio side, head over to the ratings and review section and please take a moment and leave us a 5-star rating and written review. But your host, Coach Frank Rich here, the Rebuilt Man. We love you guys. Focus on who you're becoming, not how long you go out with pornography. And the freedom will sure and surely be yours. We love you guys. We'll see you in the next one.